I think a lot of people do get confused and get caught up in the crypto sort of atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? They see these coins 1,000xing, 100xing, or whatever it may be, and they kind of think to themselves, well, I'm going to invest purely for the reason of making whatever it may be X in the next few days or few weeks. But I try and tell people, especially my audience, we need to invest in projects that can literally change the space, change the world, and change the way we use financial or whatever it may be products. And I think that's what you guys are doing, and that's what you just touched on there. That is the predominant aspect of Saito, and that's what you guys are planning to do. And that's not the main goal with you.
People don't differentiate between investment and speculation generally.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have people come, oh, I've invested in Saito. And it's like, well, no, you haven't. You're speculating. Like, you haven't given money to us to spend on doing something. Like, you bought some tokens apparently for speculative reasons. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think, smart people should look at what we're doing. The smartest thing anyone can do is understand Saito. Because as soon as you understand the network, you realize that we're not blowing smoke. And you can look out in the world and you can there has never been a substantive criticism of Saito consensus. I'll just put that out there. It's the best thing you can do to look, because if you care about blockchain and you think blockchain is a revolutionary technology and you understand Saito, you'll realize why we're doing it.
Yeah.
We don't want to, I don't want to criticize people who speculate, and I don't want to criticize people I'm doing this to put myself and my family, people I care about, in a better situation. That's fine. But that's not that can't be the driving strategic goal of the project itself. Like, one of the reasons we have a token is we want people who understand the network to be able to buy it.
Yeah.
Because it's part of a marketing strategy, which is you want the people that understand it to have their voices amplified as the network grows, that's the Bitcoin strategy. We're very consciously emulating that, which is, we want the smartest people in the space to be able to buy a little bit of Saito at next to no price because they understand it.
Yeah.
And then go to other people and say, look, you've got to understand this, because that's helping us with education. It's helping us with reach out. And, we can't buy that.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, I guess we are,
Yeah. Another question I had actually for you was, what is sort of the, could you elaborate on the on-chain use for the token? I know you did touch on, games and the rewards for such. Could you kind of touch on the governance model and things like that?
There's no governance model. It's just incentives.
Okay. Yeah.
That's maybe a separate topic. What is governance in blockchain? That's state. Blockchain is supposed to be market. So you're supposed to do the right thing because that's how you make the most money. And one of the reasons we see these governance structures in proof of stake is that they're fundamentally broken. So they have to add closure. They have to add mechanisms of state, like closed rings of people that they have permission to do things, and they're voting. And what you get is you get incumbent attacks. They're like, oh, we're safe from attack by Joe way out there. And it's like, yeah, but you're now Henry, who owns 20%, and George, who owns 31%, now literally own the network, and they're not letting anyone in.
Yeah.
So the governance issue, maybe we can talk about that if you want. The question was about the use of the token. It's just Bitcoin. Saito is a scalable, massively scalable version of Bitcoin where you can attach data to transactions, and it's super cheap to do that. And what do you use it for? Well, you use it for applications where you want to broadcast your data onto a network that will distribute it universally. So maybe I want to do a key exchange with you. I don't know where you are. I don't want there to be a man in the middle. So I use the blockchain for that.
Sure.
Why do you need the token? Well, you need the token because you need to pay a tiny fee. But that's shared and fundamental to all blockchains. If you don't have the fee, you don't have a scalable commercial network.
Yeah.
You've got a volunteer network. And, there are better and worse designs for volunteer networks, but it's not what we're building. We want massive, massive scale of a public blockchain.
Yeah, I think you'd run into a few issues in terms of scalability. In terms of a volunteer network, you'd have lots of people are incentivized with dollars, and that's what makes, unfortunately, the world go around. And I think, as you said, for scalability, that's what you would need to do. And
Well,
that's,
also,
yeah.
cost of attack, anti-spam properties. It's like if you throw out the fee, you're throwing out your security function.
Yeah.
Or you can move to the DAGs. And what do the DAGs do? Well, the DAGs throw out the block. So what do they throw out? They throw out universal broadcasting. That the data you put in your transaction is not going to everyone. It maybe goes to a few people. You can't even calculate the cost of a reorg attack on a single transaction if you don't have a block. The block is where the cost of attack comes in. How many confirmations do you wait? Right?
Yeah.
Block has to be expensive. Like these people to scale, they're throwing out all of these fundamental properties and they're saying, look, we've invented the same thing. It's totally crazy. It's like the Avalanche people saying, oh, we're a blockchain and our finality is like 1 second or something. He's like, you don't have blocks. Who are you kidding? It's not the same thing. But it's like people are moving tokens around. And so they're like, yes, it's the same thing as Bitcoin. And there's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people when the economic forces start biting on these networks.
Yeah.
And the people that are running them, they're most profitable by turning these systems into incumbent cartels. That's what's going to happen. It's already happening with Ethereum. It's already happening with BSV. A lot of these others, it's the VC funded cartels that are basically, oh yeah, look, the market likes us. Well,
and that's a very,
we'll see. Very
scary thought. And this is exactly what you were saying before in terms of forward thinking into the future and thinking big. And it's unfortunate.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with the permission chain if you want that. I'm just saying it's not a public blockchain. It's like BSC, right? Like Binance can do what it wants. But do you want that? Well, we've learned with Ethereum and MetaMask that maybe you don't want that. Like if you're in Venezuela, you don't want it.
Yeah, I think I heard a quote once. It's blockchain is only as decentralized as its weakest link. And a lot of these times they kind of projects blockchains advertise one side of them, and they leave a huge sort of void in terms of how decentralized they really are to the public. And a lot of people are still. It's a hard area, hard industry to comprehend and to know a lot about everything. And I think lots of projects do tend to push the good and leave the bad. And I think you guys, I can give you lots of credit for that. As we're all hearing now, you're very open about the problems in the space and how you're solving them or plan to solve them. And I think that gives you a lot of credibility.
What we're doing is we're trying to push people below this technical level, because 99% of the discussions are developers who don't understand the problem. And so you get solutions like the Ethereum people. They say, oh, it's trade-offs. And it's like, well, why do you have that trade? Like the scalability trilemma. Why do you have that trade-off? When you understand the problem, you realize there's two solutions. You can get independent security from decentralization, or you can get independent security from scale. Independent security from scale is the equivalent of a trusted third party. So you don't want that. So you probably want routing work. What Sato is, they don't understand the problem, they can't solve it. What they do is they develop solutions that push the problems elsewhere, but that push the problems out of model. And the biggest way you push the problem out of model is you create an incentive for one person to do it, but you say our system's designed to be decentralized, so it's good enough. And I'll push this at you. It's kind of a technical flim-flam approach, because what they do is they throw out these technical words like decentralization.